States show the interaction status of a UI element. In this video, I'm going to be talking specifically about button states, including the enabled, disabled, focus, hover, and selected states. First is the enabled state, which is also sometimes called the default state. This state indicates an interactive element. This is typically the button state you'll see when you first come to a web page. It signals to a user that it can be interacted with. In other words, it's open for business. Opposite of the enabled state is the disabled state. This state indicates a button's action is unavailable. In the disabled state, the button can't be selected and it doesn't change visually when interacted with. Disabled states are generally a light gray color or at a much lower opacity than its enabled state opacity color. Now, let's talk about the focus state. The focus state helps people know which active element or button has the keyboard focus. If you press the Tab key while on a website, for example, you can see the focus state in action. Focus states are easily customizable to fit your visual design needs or brand standards, while remaining usable and accessible for all users. I recommend using a visually obvious stroke, like a thick weight line around the In Focus button, to clearly identify a focus state. I recommend this for two reasons. One, this indicator is the default signal and many users expect this. And two, color change alone is not enough to distinguish between different states, as it may not be perceived by some people with visual impairments. Okay, next up is the hover state. This indicates that a button is clickable when placing a cursor over the button. Visual cues like a slightly darker color and change in cursor state from a normal arrow cursor to a hand cursor help convey that a button is clickable. And lastly is the selected state, which is also sometimes called the active state. This indicates a user's choice. It's what the button looks like when the user has clicked, tapped, or used a keyboard or voice input method to select and take the action. The visual cue for this state is generally very subtle. It could be a slightly darker or a lighter shade of the same color as the hover state. All right, there you have it. That's a high-level look at button states. Very minor changes and visual cues help users distinguish the different states.
Thanks for watching. If you want to see more of our UX videos, take a look at these videos over here and consider subscribing to our channel. On our website ngroup.com, you can access our free library of over 2,000 articles. You can also register for one of our UX courses that offer live hands-on UX training.